Let's discuss further with spokeswoman for Make America Great, Inc., former assistant press secretary for the Trump administration and Newsmax contributor Caroline Levitt. We also have with us Democratic analyst and senior political strategist Jonathan Harris. Appreciate that. Let's get to this, Caroline. Trump was the only main candidate not to appear at the Faith and Freedom Coalition event in Iowa. Yet clearly these pitches by the other candidates aren't significantly changing the numbers. The polls, they show that Trump is gaining 5 percentage points to 62%, while Florida Governor Ron DeSantis actually fell 6 percentage points. Plus, our own chief White House correspondent James Rosen reported yesterday that Trump also won the Family Research Council's Action, Pray, Vote, Stand Summit straw poll that earned 64% there. Caroline, many say that Trump, he's the only one to defeat President Biden. Do you still believe that's the case? And what do you make of these polls where he's gaining more support when he doesn't even go to some of these things?
Well, he's been all over the country. He's been in Iowa several times over the past couple of months. He's been here in my home state of New Hampshire, the first of the nation primary state, several times over the last few months as well. He's putting in the work. He has the best ground game of any of these campaigns across all of the early primary states, and it shows. He has a dominant position in this primary. If you added up where all of the other candidates stand in the polls, they still wouldn't be beating Donald Trump. He has a dominant lead of 30, 40 points in every single primary state, and he is also the best bet to beat Joe Biden. A new CBS YouGov poll out just this morning shows that among likely voters, Donald Trump is beating Joe Biden with 50% of support of the American people. And then amongst independents, he has a whopping dominant position of 15 points over Joe Biden. And it's because the American people remember just how better their lives were under Donald Trump's leadership a few years ago. We had the best economy in our nation's history. Our border was secure. Our law enforcement had a strong commander-in-chief in the White House, and there was peace around the world. Now you look at the chaos at our border, chaos around the world, and an economy that is abysmal for the American people, robbing them of $700 every single month. People know Donald Trump delivered for them, and they want that back.
Jonathan, we'll get your reaction to Caroline's comments there, but I want to get to this poll here first. When asked in a survey if they believe that President Biden was involved in his son's business dealings, 51% said yes, 37% said no. What do you make of this poll, and what do you make of Caroline's comments about how Trump is, gaining more support?
Well, I mean, I get it. I understand that the Trump supporting kind of conservative side has to say these things about the economy and the American people and things like that. I mean, that's not the case, obviously. I mean, obviously, we know that Trump crashed the economy into a recession, and he did that before COVID. A lot of people try to say that it was COVID as if he wasn't responsible for handling that better. But it was before COVID, and it was due to his trade war with China that he started. That was our most recent recession, and Biden has regained every job that Trump lost. We've added 13 million jobs to the economy, which is a record. We've got unemployment below 4%, which the CBO said wouldn't be done before 2025. So I think to try to pretend the economy is not far better than it was under Biden is just a little bit ridiculous. It's just obviously not true. As for the Hunter Biden situation, I think the reality is that that's just going to have to play out the way that it plays out. I don't like to get ahead of those things. I think obviously we know there's no proof that President Biden was involved in any of that. I do think it's a little bit ridiculous that the Republican Party would try to impeach President Biden over something that they're saying happened with no proof before he was president. I think that's kind of like a new level of ridiculous to impeach someone for something they did prior to them being president, except there's no proof of it. But, we'll see how it plays out. I really don't think that the American people care much about Hunter Biden. I think conservatives have been trying to make that a thing for years, the entire Biden administration, and it just hasn't played.
All right, I want to get to this This made news over the weekend. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton acquitted on 16 articles of impeachment. Caroline, your reaction to this ruling?
Well, I have to react to what the panelist just said. He said that I'm just saying things because of the spokeswoman for President Trump's super PAC. No, I'm actually speaking the truth. And if you look at the numbers in the polls, that's exactly right. Joe Biden is the most unpopular president in American history. His approval rating is at 39%, and 70% of the American people think the country is going in the wrong direction. And for you to sit here and say that the economy is in a better place than it was under the Trump years is a blatant lie by every single metric. We've had record high inflation, 7-8%, hiking up the cost of everything from eggs to gasoline, record high gas prices because of Joe Biden's war on our domestic energy production. He made it a day one priority to shut down the Keystone Pipeline and hamper all of the resources that we have here in the United States. People feel the repercussions of Biden's economy. And for you to sit here and say that is completely disingenuous and dishonest. And that's why he is falling rapidly in the polls. And that's why the Democrats are scared as hell that they're going to have a rematch with Donald Trump, because he's never been in a stronger position. Half of Democrats don't even want Joe Biden to run. They wish they had an alternative option. And that's the truth.
Jonathan, go back to you. Feel free to weigh in on Ken Paxton or Caroline's comments that she just brought up.
I would just say, I mean, if that were the case, then they shouldn't be so close in the polls. I mean, again, I'm sorry, it's just not true for you to say these things. I mean, one of the things that we can use as a metric, again, is all overall employment. But we can talk about, Trump loved to talk about how he was responsible for the lowest black unemployment rate. That was something he inherited from the Obama administration. He then spiked it up to 16. It's an absolute fact. Check the graphs. But then he spiked it up to 16%. Black unemployment right now is at 5%. You cannot suggest, without it being laughable, that the country is not better off. Trump allowed COVID to shut down the entire country due to a complete lack of leadership at the federal level, saying that it would go away in the summer and that perhaps disinfectant could be a use. It's just ridiculous. Obviously, the country is better off. Our inflation, if you understand economics, inflation has to do with a recovering economy. It's called the Phillips curve. You can look it up. And we have the lowest inflation of any G7 nation, which is all the other nations around the world like ours. We have the lowest, and inflation went up around the world. And unless you're suggesting that Biden is president of the world, clearly that's not something that he's uniquely responsible for. You just have to look at the numbers and be honest. Again, like I said, we have unemployment below 5%, which is what the CBO projected wouldn't take place until 2025. The facts are very clear. The CBO released these numbers regularly.
Here's the facts. I have to get in here because if you do look at the numbers and the facts, when Joe Biden took office after Donald Trump's second recovery of the American economy post-pandemic, inflation was less than 2%. Throughout Joe Biden's tenure, because he signed the Inflation Reduction Act and a plethora more bills that cost the American taxpayer billions and billions of wasteful spending. And we also ditched billions of dollars over the war in Ukraine because Putin doesn't take Biden seriously and he invaded that country, which didn't happen under Donald Trump. He hiked up inflation to record high. Also, when Joe Biden took office, gasoline was $2 a gallon. What did it go up to? $5.50. I was just in California. It was $5.59 a gallon. That's because of Joe Biden's policies. And for you to sit here and say that is
goes up.
All right, I got to play referee here. I love a good political debate, but we only have so much time. Caroline Levitt, thank you so much for coming on. Jonathan Harris, I love it. I'll have to play referee next week with you both.